seat, please, but do not too fasten your seatbelt, okay? We have learned about the two sessions before, which we are talking about the blockchain in general. And also with the kind of like the report that they carry on about the blockchain, and also with the finance services about the blockchain, how to utilize on that. But now come to our session is that, let me talk about first. Would you please give us for precisely or briefly about your project that deal with the blockchain in your entirety or business or organization, please?
Okay, so for me, one of the most prominent projects, I guess, that most people are expecting to hear from me about today is I'm pushing forward actually the first example that Paul gave during his keynote session on digital identity. I'm happy to say that we might be one of the first countries to have that on blockchain in the world. We're pushing that very, very hard, and at the core of it is we plan to revolutionize the concept of digital identity in Thailand, where most countries in the world do it one of two ways, right? Either centralize everything to one organization and everyone connect to that organization to get confirmation on any identity-related operation, or another more European-based model where it's a federation of many companies joined together, and then you do authentication via them. And I focus on the authentication because the second method really is only authentication. But what we wanted to do was to find the best of both worlds, right? Because the centralized one has huge privacy risk. The federated one has huge security and fraud risk. Because if any one of the provider is frauded, then everyone is lied to immediately. So at the center of merging those two areas is basically to get rid of the central party, right, but allow everyone to interconnect. And at the center of it is actually blockchain. So that's what we're planning to do in Thailand. I've requested a bunch of companies to pull together funds. SCB is one of them. So we fundraised 100 million baht in total. Not to me. I'm just pushing the project forward, but I don't partake in the business itself. But I help to design this thing and set up a company, and we're actually looking for management of this company if anyone's interested, to drive this national infrastructure forward. And our goal is everything that Paul talked about in his first sets of example in digital identity, that Thailand will have all of that. So everyone in Thailand could do all transactions online, open any account before leaving their beds every morning, if that's what they choose. Right. All of the transaction in the digital world in Thailand, maybe by 2019, if not at latest 2020, will be all secured and fraud prevented.
Right. Very interesting that. So we move on to the Ms. Yap. How about you, Red?
Hi everyone, I'm Val, CEO and founder of PolicyPal. PolicyPal is an insurtech startup based in Singapore. Recently, we raised our ICO round. We just closed it last week, 20 million ICO. So PolicyPal has been around for 2 years. We started as an insurtech, started as an insurtech platform to help individuals out there to manage and buy insurance policies on mobile app and also web platform. So I started the company based on my own personal experience dealing with insurance policy for my family. Is it clear?
Clear for a microphone?
I hear a lot.
It's okay, maybe the need for the technician to fix it. Okay? Okay? So can you move on? Go on.
Okay. So I was talking about, I started a company based on my own personal experience dealing with policy for my loved ones. A few years ago, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. Thankfully, she recovered, and I was the one helping her to submit for insurance claims payout. We found out that the insurance company rejected the claim, giving the reason that because the policy premium wasn't paid on time once. So they rejected the 6-digit insurance claims in Singapore dollars. Back and forth communication, we let the matter rest. A few months down the road, unfortunately, my dad passed away due to a heart attack. Then again, we have to deal with insurance policies and communication with insurance companies, insurance agents, one by one to double check whether my dad have any insurance policies there. So those incidents make me think that, oh, there's no central database to help people to manage and look into all the policies documents that they have purchased a while ago. So I started PolicyPal based out of that experience, and then over time, we became the first company that entered Singapore regulator, MAS FinTech Sandbox, and currently the first and only startup that has graduated out of the sandbox. So as we work together with individuals and businesses based in Singapore, we learn about new challenges. The new challenges is that there's a lot of blockchain startups based in Singapore, and the communications with them is that they've been looking for protection. So our ICO round is we raise the funds mainly to introduce products. So 2 new products. The first one is insurance for crypto assets for blockchain startups based in Singapore for a proof of concept before you launch out of Singapore. And the second product is introducing decentralized insurance for the unbanked community. Why decentralized insurance is because if, let's say, we have decentralized distribution and also policy management, I think my debt issue will be solved last time because we'll be able to track all the policies on one place.
Right. It's very interesting and it sounds very challenging for you to move on to for the new products to come. So we're going to go into the more detail later. Okay. So, Mr. Davies, how about you then?
Yeah, sure. In the last year, our company AgUnity have profoundly changed the lives of some of the world's poorest farmers. And how this happened was like an accident. We were working, John, my co-founder, and I, were working on some crypto ledger in the market data space and the data transmission space. And we went to a fintech conference in London, and there was a hackathon. And we tried to win a prize from Singularity University. If anyone knows Singularity University, they like you to do really big things. So we challenged ourselves to how can you come up with an idea to help the billion poorest farmers in the world? And the idea was really, we came up with something really good at the show, but then after we won that prize, we were sort of a bit skeptical about what we're thinking. So we did something a bit special. We went out and we spent months, almost a year in John's case, living and working with farmers in some of the most remote rural communities all around the world. And we ran 2 complete pilot studies. We were in a lot of countries, but we completed 2 in Kenya and Papua New Guinea. And in those pilots, we increased the average farmer income by 3 times, just from one season to the next. And we didn't use any expensive technology or magic beans to do that. Because the problem we solve is a lack of trust in rural communities. We have a mobile and a smartphone and a blockchain application. And we use that application so that when a farmer trades with a cooperative or uses a piece of shared equipment, there's a secure record to ensure that everyone gets paid what they should. Because most of our farmers are really low income. They live on a few dollars a day. Most of them can't read. Most of them have never had a phone before. And so they were working in cooperatives before, but their system was failing them because if I hand my cocoa beans across to you,
right,
I'm not sure you're going to pay me. And so I won't do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to sell 2 bags of cocoa beans rather than selling the cooperative, selling a whole ton of them and getting a better price. And there's a whole lot of other inefficiencies that happen here. So that was the first thing. We discovered we weren't expecting that amount of increase. We had an incredible increase. And then the other thing we found out, after, in Kenya, we increased average farmer income from $300 a season up to about $1,000. And in New Guinea, we increased them from $35 up to about $130 a month. And so we had another strange thing happen. We had all these farmers that have got hundreds of dollars and they'd literally never had that much money before in their lives. And we saw another amazing thing. If you live in a really remote area, it's actually hard to spend money. Sometimes, and particularly in Pacific Islands, the only thing you can buy is alcohol. So we started off this trying to solve a problem. We weren't trying to use blockchain. We weren't trying to make money. We're trying to solve a real problem. And then we discovered that after we'd helped farmers increase income, we've become a wallet and we're the most trusted provider of anything to them. So that we can sell them solar lights and water purifier kits and glasses and a whole lot of stuff. So we become a marketplace for them. So we don't try to make money off them in front. After we've increased their income, we help them provide all sorts of other services to them.
Right, very brilliant. I think that Thai farmer sounds good for this because we want Thai farmer to increase their revenue as well, right? Yeah. So that is about the tangible consequence of using the blockchain, right, to utilize and increase about, of course, of your side, for the revenue side. And this is about to create about the new more products to streamline or make it about new efficiency in terms of about insurance industry. And I'll be back on that. From the final consequence, which is very successful, be back on that. During the implementation phase that you have encountered with that, could you please tell us about that? How would you find about the challenge, or during the implementation phases, what did you find that, right?
Well, actually, we're right in the middle of that right now. So the most challenging thing dealing with technology that interact with so many parties is obviously getting them all together to agree. Right? That's the most difficult thing. I've been pushing this project for a year and a half. 80% of that time I've spent getting people to agree that this is actually supposed to be a win for them. At first, I thought it would be easy to convince them, saying, if we manage to finish this project, everyone would save, well, for example, SCB would itself save at least 500, 600 million baht a year just on operation alone. And I only asked for a few million baht. But actually, that turns out to be not so easy, because one of the first questions I get asked back is, okay, fine, but why don't you ask someone else for that money, right? It's kind of crazy idea. So I have to explain, saying that this entire digital identity project needs to involve everybody. So trust needs to be established. The way I define the word digital identity, it's entirely new. Right? People keep asking me, okay, what other country do this? Can you please give me an example? And I just can't, because there is no one else that does this. Right? So I have to slowly explain, saying what we're doing really is to create a new paradigm of trust, right? By bringing every little bit of trust, your relationship with SCB, for example, if you're a person, your relationship with SCB contribute to the trust in your identity only a little bit, right? It gets added more as you have more network. And getting that concept to stick to all the parties so that we come together and pull together resource to build this project is really tough. Right. Getting people to understand, because blockchain itself is new, and the way we design or use it is unlike most projects we've run into. Of course, there are a couple of startups around the world implementing something similar, but when people ask me, okay, if we continue to the next phase to implement it, we want to see actual successful projects, and that is a little bit harder to find. I can give them an example of where people are trying out this technology. I have a few engineers that put together a basic example to show them that this is possible, but the hardest part is explaining this technology so that people agree that this is a good thing to move forward. Conceptually, they all agree it saves money.
Right.
Implementing it is another.
Right. So that's why it's about getting people to know and understand thoroughly. It's very important for your project. Right?
And also a question I run into a lot is, blockchain is so new, what if next year there's something else that replaces it?
Yeah. Right.
A quick answer is, then we'll use that thing next year. We'll migrate to it, right? We should think of ourselves as an innovator and not as someone who waits for someone else to innovate and then borrow it.
Right.
That's my answer.
Is that the same challenge or your obstruction during your implement about your blockchain with your business?
The implementation on our blockchain is still in the product development phase. So our challenge that probably if you talk about convincing regulators or governments on the new technology that we are implementing. So our experience in last year's MAS FinTech Sandbox is very similar, as we work together with the regulators, the central bank, on what we are working on. Being the first company, have to encourage them that we have to look into innovative solution. It's the same thing as we have to educate or share with them what we are working on. And they often ask about what are the potential risk mitigation that you have prepared when you enter the sandbox and also outside of the sandbox. And being a regulated insurance broker based in Singapore, when we launched our ICO, we also informed the central bank about it. In Singapore, they do not regulate ICOs because we have launched a utility token. So yeah, we're aware about it, and we continue to work together, and they do know that our next plan, which is to launch decentralized insurance, that is currently under development now. They actually are very open. So last week I was in Milan in this financial stability board meeting with the central banks, and the three main topics that they talk about, sandboxes, ICO, and cryptocurrencies. Right. Mainly, they want to understand the the technology behind, which is blockchain. What's the use of blockchain in the sandboxes, and also what's the use of blockchain businesses for all the new launches of ICO projects. So for us, it's also learning phase together with the central bank and also our insurance partners, because in Singapore, we currently have 16 insurance partners that we are working with.
Right.
So there'll be questions that are being thrown to me here and there is that, oh, what happens if you launch a decentralized insurance, your insurance companies partners, the global partners, example, Aksra, Aviva, etc. What would they say when you launch a decentralized insurance? Isn't it competing with the centralized system? Is that we launch this platform that we invite them, if let's say they do want to be part of the decentralized insurance platform, they can come on board to become part of the ecosystem. And we have to ensure that we add value, that there will be value added to our partners so that they will be incentivized to adopt our platform and technology so that the whole ecosystem will be able to be established and built, and then it will be built to be a global platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So have you encountered with the something in common challenge or different?
Well, I think we deal with the complete other end of the market. Our farmers have never had a phone before. They've never been connected with any technology. So we specifically, I think this applies to anything, we didn't try selling blockchain. We didn't even tell them it was blockchain. It's the perfect use case for blockchain because it's recording a transaction between two people that no one can ever alter.
Yep.
So it's the simplest use, it's also the perfect use. But we didn't tell them about blockchain.
Right.
And our problem isn't about what the technology is, it's about providing a solution that is relevant to the farmers. And that's what we did by spending so much time. And we hit upon something that back at the original hackathon, Gates Foundation loved it. They were the ones that first encouraged us. And we found out that Asia Development Bank and Africa Development Bank, and I've got people over in Europe at World Food Programme at the moment. We align ourselves very closely with the organisations that are trying to help those farmers and just provide a technical solution that works together with what their projects are already doing.
Right.
So it wasn't about a blockchain thing. It was about making something that was actually meaningful to farmers. We see so many, financial inclusion is huge, right? Everyone's doing banking the unbanked and things.
Right.
What they miss is if you're a farmer in New Guinea, you don't care about a bank account. It's not relevant to you. But once you've actually used an application that's helped you with your farming, the farmers started using it like a bank account. They were keeping money in the cooperative. Funny thing about New Guinea, right? It's mostly women farmers. If they bring money home, men turn up, there's a party, all the money's gone. Most women in the audience would understand that problem. So the women, or most of the farmers, they were leaving their money in the cooperative and treating the cooperative like a bank. Now, they'd never had a bank account. They never would have got a bank account. But we're introducing them to a new idea just by making it relevant to what they were doing today. And I think that's the key to expanding these projects.
So the main idea is about to get it relevant, right?
Relevant to the person. Don't care about blockchain. Don't care about solve a real problem.
Right. So back to Dr. Bhume, because I really love about your question is there any something new that will shock us, that will be disruptive, rather than about blockchain? Now we face with it.
I'm sure there will be. Technology in this space moves faster than any space. I studied this area for decades, and a new technology come out every year. But especially in the area of blockchain, we run into new innovation literally on a monthly basis.
Right.
So I'm sure it will come. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's something even much faster than the already new hype. People kept talking blockchain, and then they say hash graph, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure something else will come along. The point isn't the key technology itself, right? Because everyone who jumped into blockchain already is already somewhat ahead of the curve, as in these are one of the most innovative people already. So even if something else come along, I'm sure people who are already in this area right now, being that we're all early adopters or evangelist level, as in on the far frontier, will be very quickly able to adapt with this technology. But I'm very sure something will.
Right. Do you agree with him?
I totally agree. To add is that I think if new technology comes, it depends very much on the speed of adoption, because the technology and also it have to be relevant to people who are receiving the end product, right? The end business product. Are they finding it useful? Do they see value in it? Do they want to be part of the ecosystem and they see the value of being part of it to spread the word. So this way, the implementation of the newer technology might actually overtake blockchain. But currently, everyone is really into learning the key benefits of blockchain and also how it can be implemented outside of financial services, because these days a lot is being applied in fintech, on potentially insurtech, digital identity. What's after next? Yeah, I think that's the next new thing that we're looking at.
Right. So what do you think about that?
Nothing more to say. Technology always evolves. It's a classic, and blockchain will evolve, and it'll evolve in areas we haven't seen yet.
Right, because in your case, it deals with many, the farmers, right, which is going about mass and mass people who get involved with that. Is that any, for the challenge to get blockchain interact or related with the mass people in the future?
Oh, not really. Blockchain, we assess it as a cloud service, and it's very cheap. We deploy this on $30 smartphones to the farmers all around the world. We give them, one thing unique about us, we don't try to sell them a service up front. We give them a free smartphone. We give them the application. We get them all on board. And so that's really easy entry to them. And I think that's part of the problem with getting people on blockchain. There's a bit of a barrier to entry. Blockchain technologies have got to be like talking insurance industry. It's got to be seamless. Like, it's got to be what you're used to doing. It should be, like we think about databases, as Brian was saying before, that it should be behind the scene, like Paul was saying before.
Right. So we're back to Ms. Yap again, because we want to know more and more about your business model. And of course, for the role and the benefit of the blockchain in the future, associated with your business model, what are we going to be in that?
So our business model, we act as a platform, a data platform, working with big insurance companies, third-party trusted sources to help us distribute the insurance policies. So decentralized insurance is through the peer-to-peer mutual aid model. So for one very simple example, if there's about, say, 500 of us here, or 600, everyone has to rush to the airport because maybe everyone is leaving for their plane, but they're very worried something along the on the way might happen. So everyone chip in 100 baht. So anything that happened, we take 10% risk calculation. So 10% of this 600 people, 60% of 60 people can actually receive a claim of, pardon me, I have to do the calculation. So 600, 100. So probably about everyone can get, say, 600 in return if, let's say, there's anything happen to them on the way to the airport. So they can use this 600 baht to buy for a new air ticket, etc. So this is called mutual aid platform. How do you make it workable on a larger scale? Is putting it on a blockchain platform where PolicyPal network acts as a data collector to look into everyone's risk profile. Everyone is heading towards the same direction. What type of flight, etc., and then look into the pricing model, and we distribute the insurance policies based on the pre-programmed conditions set on the smart contract. And once there's any flight information or like any traffic information that we receive from the third-party sources, we are able to automate the claims payout to the affected parties. So that's our base business model, acting as a platform and working with everyone in the ecosystem to make insurance decentralized. So the type of insurance products that we'll be launching will be life insurance, personal accident, even agriculture potentially. I need to learn more from David. And also property insurance targeting the unbanked. Why so? Because this group of people do not have insurance policies, and many of them find buying normal insurance policies very expensive, and making it affordable to them is through blockchain technology and putting it on a smart contract to automate the whole process.
So, Mr. David, can you touch about this?
Well, I can actually, directly on the insurance industry, there was a study by one of the large insurance companies for microinsurance for farmers in Nigeria, I believe. And the recovery rates were really high. But the problem is, because the premiums and the payouts are so low, and because there's a large amount of corruption in like false claims, the administration cost was something like 85% of the administration cost of insurance. So that administration cost is the reason developing world farmers can't get insurance on anything. It's costing them essentially 6 times as much as it should, insurance. If you can do I forget the term, but shared coverage. So they all just put some money in,
Yeah.
like insurance used to work. You know,
Right.
you put a bit of your load on a different boat, and if
Right.
one boat sinks, you only lost part of your load.
Uh-huh.
That's how insurance started.
Exactly.
And-
Mutual aid insurance.
Yeah, if you can do that at a cooperative level,
Right.
then, you know, if a farmer's crops, you know, farmer loses some of his crops, he can be covered by the others in the cooperative. So you can do that at a very cheap level. So we've been in a lot of talks with insurance companies about using our service as a platform for providing insurance to this completely untapped market in the developing world,
Right.
which really suffer from it. If you're a developing world farmer and you lose your crop from a typhoon,
Uh-huh.
that can set you back for like 5 years, or you might never recover from that situation. So it's absolutely life-changing in those areas to be able to get in coverage.
Right. So, Dr. Bhume, can you tell me about your business model?
My project is mostly about national infrastructure, but the way we structure it is to set up a consortium company among the private sectors. So the business model is still undergoing development, but chances are digital identity is really an infrastructure service that provides service to all other transactions. So the most natural business model would be the providing fee, right? Basically KYC authentication as a service where any given company, for example, an insurance company might want to double check identity and perform a CDD check on one of their customers. In the past, they would have to send messenger over, photocopy various documents, and then have all sorts of costs to identify whether these documents are real. In the future, what we plan to do is you just hit one button and all the data would flow from the trusted source to the insurance company. And so it could cost very little and could be done in an automated way almost immediately. And then onboarding customer, you just pay a little bit of fee. So normally you might have a 50 baht or 100 baht operational cost. Now you just pay like 5 baht fee and enable this everywhere for all sorts of transactions. That would be the simplest, but that's only the first use case, right? For onboarding and enabling trusted transactions. But like Paul has already mentioned, digital identity, once you lay it out, you can solve healthcare issue, you can solve voting issue. And so those are entirely new business case that is possible for this company. We, like I said, help to set up, but once again, looking for an executive.
Right. So in your viewpoint, that is about necessary for the Thai government to lay it out about, I mean, in terms of about the continuous support or specific law to enhance or to build about ecosystem of the blockchain technology for the Thai.
Okay, so blockchain is a technology. Technically, no law should set out to forbid any particular technology specifically, and no laws in Thailand forbid anyone from using blockchain, barring a few, right? There's a few laws, and these laws exist in almost all other countries. For example, right to be forgotten laws, libel laws, those, nobody in the world knows yet how to deal with blockchain, because if you put in slander message onto a blockchain, it can never be erased. And that's something we're going to struggle with in the future for sure. So let's not talk about those laws. Right? Talking about promotion, most countries have no clear set of rules in regards to dealing with the first type of application, the most useful enablement application of blockchain, which is the token, right? Digital assets. And so Thailand, like all other countries, would have to very quickly define where regulators and government view on these assets and how to tax them, how to check to make sure who owns what, who has the rights to create what assets, are those assets real, are any of them Ponzi scheme? The rules should have to come out very quickly. Fortunately, we're at a very good time in Thailand because this month we're set to have that rule in Thailand. So everyone in this ecosystem in Thailand right now is very edgy. Teams that are working on this law has spent many sleepless nights in the past few weeks trying to get this through.
Can you tell us that?
I'm forbidden from speaking any detail, but once it comes out, then we can discuss.
Right, because everyone are curious about that, rules and regulations with the government, right?
Yes, and I don't know all the detail either, so even if I say it, I'm not sure if it's all correct, but I can't say it.
Right, like a silent period, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, better. So we back to the you two, because we thought you come from the service sector, right? Because insurance is one of the service sector, and also for the agriculture is about the manufacturing sector. The one question is that which industry to adopt blockchain? What is the major concern to adopt about blockchain technology according to about the industry? Kind of like this. Say for example, like financials, insurance, anything like that.
So the question is, which
Which
industry will be the first to implement?
Yes, right.
I think we have seen it in fintech a lot. It has proven the use cases, and I think the biggest impact will potentially be the government.
Right.
Once the government launched the digital identity, roll it out to the healthcare, working with insurance companies and financial services, we can really change how people receive their insurance claims payout, claims automation, getting policy incepted instantly.
Right.
So that's from my own personal perspective, learning from my experience. So on top of that, I think that blockchain technology will also change the unbanked community, because most of them do not have access to the existing infrastructure.
Right.
So I see the opportunities that they leapfrog from having to buy insurance policies from an insurance agent, doing all the back and forth communication, to straight away getting a smartphone, getting protected, claims paid out, when the government are the ones that actually implement the digital identity and connecting all the dots. So this will really change how people live their lives.
Right.
It's hard to nail one industry, because I think one of the things blockchain does is it changes threads across industries. And Paul pointed out the provenance one earlier, and I think that's the most interesting one, because it's particularly close to us in agriculture. So one of the things that we did, I've got a good example of it actually.
Yeah.
So we've got cocoa farmers in Solomon Islands, and this is a chocolate maker in Brisbane.
Right.
That QR code on that chocolate will show you when that chocolate was made in Brisbane, when it was shipped out of Honiara, Solomon Islands, when it was fermented and dried, right back to a story of Agnes and her farming, and a little video saying that she's been farming cocoa since she's 3 and I love it. It literally tells you the date. So this is food provenance. And that's a really good philanthropic story, because you can enjoy your chocolate, you can know Angus. And we'll do one soon with Asia Development Bank around coffee. You can go into your barista and you can get a receipt on your QR code, and you can see the lady that grew your coffee in Laos or something like that. It's really, really lovely philanthropic story. But the bigger one is in food provenance, which what we all eat, right? So the meat industry in China, 95% of the Wagyu in China consumes 20 times as much Wagyu as it imports.
Right.
95% of it's not Wagyu. It's pretty similar around Asia. Like China's the peak of that. If you can trace the provenance of Wagyu, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Right. And
so we have a few subsidiaries of our technology, one doing meat, one doing wool industry, merino wool industry, another industry that's faked a lot, one for organic certification. And I think this whole provenance thing and traceability, which spreads across things, because we also have one with Africa Development Bank, again on Paul's thing of provenance for the gemstone industry, tracing the provenance for artisanal miners. So if they find, the blood diamond story, they find a really nice stone, it gets tracked at the beginning, and that person gets paid something of what that stone is worth. And the governments around Africa are trying to regulate that better. So I think the blockchain is huge around provenance, because it's a simple, cost-effective way of recording right from the origin of a good, where it came from. And it's really easy to convey that information the whole way along. And that one runs right across a bunch of different industries.
Right. So in your personal viewpoint, I would like to know that, do you utilize the benefit of the blockchain enough for your business?
Not yet. I mean, there's a lot more that we can do, so we're only touching the surface. And the reason we have subsidiaries doing these other things is because we bid off way more than any company should. We're trying to give a service to 1 billion farmers, right? So just the peanut butter analogy, we're exactly the opposite of that. We do one thing, which is try to get phones in the hands of developing world farmers and create an ecosystem for them, and create a platform where other people can put services on, like mobile banking and insurance and We kind of do a bit of identity, but put the extended identity functions onto it. So we want to become a platform that connects them.
Right.
And so we can't do all those different things, and we're relying on the organisations like Ripple to do the transfers into those farmers. And this is where it will be most important, that each person picks off a piece of the pie,
right,
and it will all come together, like the internet did. Like, you know, when you first had Amazon, someone had to invent PayPal to work out how to pay things. Someone had to invent a better shipping company so that your goods arrived. And it'll be the same thing for the whole blockchain space. Companies like insurance companies and us will collaborate so we can provide insurance to developing world farmers. And I think it's that interaction which is going to be the most exciting thing of development of blockchain.
Right. Ms. Yap, do you think about it? How to interact or to put up about the new model in collaboration across the industry by using the blockchain?
I think the collaboration has already been ongoing for a lot of blockchain startups. So be it ourselves with another company that we have yet to announce, targeting the emerging market, offering insurance on top of the financial services product that they are helping the unbanked. And also collaboration with insurance companies, the established ones. So it's in between that, as long as the insurance companies or the established financial institutions are open to collaboration partnerships, we are able to roll out the whole blockchain technology and bring the key benefits and value to the end consumer faster.
Right.
Because blockchain only works if, let's say, everyone in the ecosystem are incentivized to promote and implement it. Yeah.
Right. So back to Dr. Bhume, because you said that getting people to know, to understand about the same goal to use blockchain to develop all kind of the aspect of the service or the product of that. But the one thing is that how we're going to start, at what point, or any specific when that we use the blockchain for the initial kind of like implement of that to keep it moving, going on and on for the continuous operation of that.
My short answer is now. I encourage people to explore this technology right away. A lot of people will say you have to first establish a proper business model first.
Right.
To me, you have to do both, right? Once the business model is done, but you don't have anyone who knows how to do it, you have to wait. So everyone who consult me, I say, do it both ways, right? Get your business guys, study it up, read, understand all sorts of business model in the blockchain space, for example, their business model, others, but get their engineer guys to start playing with it. If they have no clue on what small project they could take on, they could go online and find open source project and put it. The answer to me is right away, because this technology vastly differs from any other technology that we know of, and it's not something, once you have the business and the compliance and the legal idea come together, that then you could just find any programmer to take on and implement the project. So the best answer for me is now.
Right.
For everyone.
For everyone. We think that we all learn about the good side, I mean, for the advantage of the use of the blockchain. But how about, do you have any curious, or no, not curious, just like have like warning about the use of the blockchain technology in the other way around?
The warning of use of blockchain technology, I think is only useful if, let's say, there's a few parties involved. So if, let's say, actually, some insurance companies already asked if, let's say, we can implement the blockchain technology for them, but only for their company. But there's no connection with anyone else, then that's for vanity's sake. That means it's really just testing it out with just one party. Then there's no real benefits of it. So end of the day, I think my take is that only implement and use the blockchain technology if, let's say, you can learn something out of it, be it for the 6 months proof of concept project that you're working on before you implement it out, at least with a few different parties before you roll out to the industry. So I think I wouldn't say that anything bad about blockchain, but I think potentially the risk of people hearing that, oh, the hype of blockchain and they want to implement it for the sake of it, then it might hurt the industry. Yeah.
What about Mr. Davies?
The main risk around blockchain is, in my opinion, the ICO. I'm very much on the Ripple bandwagon here. The ICO bandwagon getting too much attention and raising money for the wrong things. So I'm hoping this year we'll see a lot more move towards companies that are... I mean, we have a really interesting story for a token, for a philanthropic token, but I would never do an ICO because I just don't believe, any method that way is sort of usually it's skirting securitization laws. And they're in there for a reason. I come from big banking, and I was in Treasury, so I hated securitization rules, but I know why they're there.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the risks around blockchain, that it's not a method to avoid things that are put in place for a reason, like ICOs, but the token offering story is a really powerful one, and that'll be much more powerful when it moves away from being a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right. So can you figure out during the short term or in the long term, any new development from the blockchain basis future to come?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, we were working on one. The company that we were building called Zenect, which was doing something in essentially the Bloomberg Reuters market data space, which is a huge industry and really open disruption. Well, we were building something that was more akin to a communication protocol using cryptology techniques. So imagine something that was halfway between BitTorrent and blockchain, and you're kind of on that area. So I think there's going to be a lot of developments in that area. We see IOTA is one that's doing something very interesting, designed for Internet of Things. And I think that's the evolution of blockchain in the next couple of years, is to go into new areas. And I'd caveat that saying it's not blockchain, it's going to be crypto ledger, like crypto distributed ledger, which is a bit more than blockchain.
Right. How about you, MP?
I think from my side, I feel that the technology side, if let's say, forgot my train of thought, sorry. Yeah, the question was on...
talk about new development of the blockchain.
New development of blockchain, right? Yeah, sorry. I was about to talk about last year the project by AIG, Standard Chartered, and IBM to implement international smart insurance policy to be able to trace international insurance policy issuance. Because so far, only reinsurance companies have the high-level overview of different insurance companies based in many different countries. Because insurance distribution is very regulated by each certain state or country. So I think down the road, from this proof of concept that AIG, IBM, as well as Standard Chartered have implemented, it will bring a lot of learning points for the rest of the people in the industry to scale it to the potential of international insurance policy issuance. So I see that the potential of our platform, PolicyPal Network Data Platform, where we are able to issue mutual aid insurance policies based on the data that we get, we potentially can work with these big organizations reaching out to the unbanked or individuals out there.
Right. So back to Dr. Bhume, if I ask about does blockchain technology is an accessory or alternative technology for, yes, from the government side, from the business people side?
I wouldn't say it's completely unnecessary, but it solves problems that no other technology solves. So if that's something you wish to do, then it's almost necessary. But sometimes you don't want to solve some of those problems. Any other reason? So yeah, I look at it, I'm a technology person, so I look at it in terms of the fact that this thing provides new capability, new way of doing things, and coupled with the upcoming technology like AI and advanced cryptography like zero knowledge and other things, it leaves us at the verge of a very interesting future. So I almost say it doesn't matter if you're not sure, you need to find someone who knows this thing really well and help you decide. Because at the end of the day, the answer might be not yet. The technology is not ready. Like the recent Bank of England put out a white paper saying they've studied using blockchain to solve some of their problem, and a few of them are promising, but a few of them, they just think it's not ready. And I think that's perfectly reasonable. Blockchain is not yet super mature, but it is set to solve a few problems that no other technology can in the way that it can. Of course, you can forego the most important property of blockchain in that if you don't want to solve that problem having no trusted party, then you can just set up an organization where everyone trusts, then you don't need that, right? if your community or your country is fine working with having a centralized risk,
Right.
then you don't need it. But before you make that decision, you should really understand what this technology has to offer first, because your answer may differ. Right? Your operational cost may reduce a lot, although your investment cost may not, because cost of getting people to do blockchain right now is very expensive. Blockchain programmers are easily twice as expensive as any other programmer right now. So investment costs may not be cheaper, but operational costs and risk may be a lot cheaper over the long run. So it's worth looking at. I can't say for every potential use case whether it is a must or whether it's fancy.
Right. So by the same question, do you think differently that is this necessary or alternative technology?
I think it's necessary technology for everyone to look into.
Right.
Alternative technology for anyone who want to be a follower, because they can always think that is an option, but as they see the adoption is coming on board, they should potentially follow, or if not, they might fall behind. But then again, if let's say everyone is looking into blockchain and decentralization, or as Paul mentioned just now, distributed ledger, right? I think a lot of people are also worried what happens if, let's say, there's no governance on top of it. So the one implementing the platform for the distributed, be it distributed ledger or distributed type of insurance of industry, have to have some form of governance inside, so that to ensure that there's no scams. And then we can incentivize the good verifiers, the good people who are actually helping to increase the adoption of the platform, instead of getting the whole crowd in and then have no proper governance, and you'll be a total mess.
Right.
Yeah.
So Mr. Davies, sometimes some entrepreneur might think that to invest with the blockchain technology is about a big expense rather than big investment. About
this? No, I mean, back to the previous question and overlapping with this one, blockchain isn't cold fusion. There's nothing you can do with blockchain that you can't do in a dozen other ways. But that's the same for the internet, right? There was nothing, we could all do the internet before the internet came about. We have other things, they just didn't work. Blockchain is a popularization of a common pattern of ideas to do things. And in that it's powerful because there's mind share around it. So a lot of people are thinking about it, a lot of people are thinking about doing things. So that's what makes blockchain powerful, that it's a common thread of ideas, the same way the internet was. So that's the reason to understand it. And then why it can do these things, it's not about why it can do things, it's what's your problem, and is blockchain the thing that was missing that helps you solve that problem a little bit better way than we could have otherwise. And in that instance, I think there's a lot of solutions that blockchain is just a bit better way that makes these things faster and more accessible to deliver.
Right. Well, very fascinating and very interesting about your comment from this session. So we welcome all the questions from the floor. And we're going to see that this is a big vote for this question. We have a big problems, corruption in the government spending and procurement. Do you have the ideas on how blockchain help making government spending more transparent? I think this is your question.
This solution to this actually doesn't need to be blockchain. You could do it many other ways. Blockchain could help solve a little bit of the problem, but not entirely, because a lot of spending and procurement decisions done outside of blockchain. And if you can't solve the problem at the decision level, then it doesn't matter if you solve the problem at the spending level. But technically, blockchain could help a little bit. For example, in Thailand now, there's scandal, very unfortunate, but it's a huge scandal in that there's a government project of handing out money to poor people around the country. And it turns out that at the very last leg, right before the money reaches the poor people's hand, there's someone who take out 70 or 80 or 90% in some case into their own pocket and then handing out just 10% off to the poor people. That problem can be solved with blockchain only if you can get the people on the end hooked up to the internet. If you can't, then you can't solve it anyway, right? But if you can, then yes, you can solve it with blockchain, because that's an operational cash management problem. For example, so some problem, yes.
Right.
Many problem, unfortunately, we would need other more advanced morale-based technology to solve.
That's a very good example. Well, I mean, the one we're working on with World Food Programme is exactly that. In Philippines, when they do disaster relief, roughly half the money disappeared. They lost account of it, millions of dollars. And the solution is to have some way of tracking that at the end. Right. And that's a perfect blockchain use case. It's very similar to what we do already. When I hand my cocoa beans over to you, instead I get my food package or I get my money support, and we do a phone-to-phone transaction, and then we know absolutely it made it into that person's wallet. It's a really good example, and it's one that World Food Programme have been working on for a long time, and they've decided that that's definitely a blockchain use case.
Right. At least we feel happy it can help us, right? Unless we have to wait for the new technology to come, attack for this problem, okay? So for the next question, we're going to see the big word of this. What will be the blockchain top trend in 2018?
I think in 2018, potentially we will see existing businesses leveraging on blockchain technology. So one of the use cases that I've seen is Singapore Airlines is rolling out blockchain-based royalty reward system. So this way they work together with retail outlets and merchants to be able to redeem the points that you earn from KrisFlyer. And all this will be transparent on the blockchain. They have yet to roll it out, but they make the announcement. So that's one of it. And we've seen Telegram that raising a very huge ICO round, also leveraging on the blockchain to look into different type of businesses. Potentially other tech companies, be it Airbnb, Uber, they might roll out such use cases as well. So I think that potentially will be the top trends. As compared to 2017, we see more of the companies that just probably written their white paper, and then they say that, oh, this is what they are going to build down the road. But I think this year we see businesses learning about what blockchain can help them and then implement it into their existing business.
Right. Have you foreseen about the top trend of the blockchain technology?
Well, I'd like to hope it's the provenance one, because that's the one that can really impact people. Like we know we're eating healthy food, and we know it's really, the organic certification's one, a great one, right? We're often buying organic foods that we think it is, but most of the time they're really not. And one of the problems we notice is we have farmers that are organic because they can never afford fertilizers.
Right.
But they can't get certified because the certification process is too expensive. So that's a good example. I'd like to see the provenance and the tracking of food be the one that really, because that'll change a lot of people's lives.
Right. Okay. So maybe for the last question. It's actually about the time in already. Okay. Well, okay. I think that for all ladies and gentlemen who attend about this session since about 1:30 up until now 4:30, I think it's very, very beneficial session that you all collect from the people who know very well, the people who equipped with about the strong experience from this region. And you know about such a renowned company used about the blockchain technology, relevant, and to what to solve the problem of that. And we know about for the future trend to come with the new technology, which is we might not predict it correctly. But we all know that we have to make it proactive, to learn and adjust ourselves, our business, our entirety to the new technology to come. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a very big hand to these three speakers. Right. So thank you very much for your contribution to this session. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Davies.